I mean, we've really improved because like now we're just so gracious towards one another. It's like we kind of offer to let the other person hit the button. It's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah, the race didn't work because like we tried to race to hit the button one time, and then one of us hit the end broadcast, and it was a big round table, and we had to start the whole thing over. Yeah, it was great. It was really fun.
Start stuff.
So, welcome back everyone to Tech Talk on a Tuesday. It's kind of one of our favorite episodes, just because we like the intro and the name. Um, and we're actually going to have a new guest today, which is kind of cool. We've got Chris Barnes on the line, and Chris Barnes is like, heavy into Eden, I guess. And so I'm hoping to get, all of the goods, all of the prosperity that comes out of it, and the poison apple, kind of jokingly, the poison apple, because like I heard some really funny things about the whole, what did you call it? Like the groupings and the move like towards getting
Political playoffs is one way to frame it.
Yeah, so I think like it's kind of interesting story. I heard like a little bit of the backstory from some of the other people, so I kind of want to dive into that and get your like perspective and take, because you're like the all-time champion, right? Like you won the whole thing.
The first champion of a very like the trial run, not the full, not the. I mean, there's only 64 people. Where eventually, it could be a 10,000 person group. So very humble winning. I'm just and I'm not a developer. I'm not an EOS OG or big contributor. I'm a huge fan since the beginning. But in terms of the other great names in the space, I think when it comes to the future elections, when there's some bigger people and far bigger prizes, I won't find myself at the top, which I'm perfectly okay with. I'm happy to be here today.
I mean, like the first person is always going to be the first person. That's just
if I turned to be a total jerk, that would certainly shine a poor light upon the whole thing. So I feel a little bit of pressure to at least be a nice guy.
Don't suck.
Don't suck. Yeah.
Do you want to play an intro for us, Corey?
Sure. We got intros for days. No, intro's good because I got to pull the game up. We got to do that whole thing. The cheesy one. That's the one. Welcome to Tech Talk on a Tuesday, where Corey and Jimmy talk to smart people about tech that is way above their head, but intensely informative, super fun. Sooner or later, somebody's going to make an inappropriate joke. We're definitely going to give away a bunch of NFTs. And quite frankly, we're just going to learn a whole ton. If you have any ideas about who we should have on Tech Talk on a Tuesday, please let us know by adding us in the comments or just finding us, just stalk us down. It's fine. Just talk to us. Tech Talk on a Tuesday. Yeah, we're super pro. Here's the reason, I'm paying as much as I possibly can for internet, and it is not always.
I kind of feel like that. I kind of feel like that intro really works today because we've been so busy over here in Uplifter Land. I mean, the Legend Art thing happened. The Uplift World has been bumping up, new lands to different people. We got like new NFTs coming out that like I personally haven't been paying attention to anything that's going on in Eden. So definitely, Chris is the smart person that is going to like teach us about Eden today. Like I don't even know what's happening over there.
Yeah, I want it like a full start at the beginning. Yeah, because I feel like I don't have any clue what's going on at all.
Sure. So I think, what is Eden, right? So I think of Eden as an entirely revolutionary way that groups of people or communities can come together, reach consensus, and select their leaders or representatives. Which is what makes this so incredible in my mind, because that can apply to all sorts of, it can apply to towns, municipalities, blockchain governance, and countries. Like this is the scope and potential scale goes far beyond just the EOS blockchain. So for me, that's one of the main reasons I'm just personally so excited and thrilled to be able to participate in a small way in something that I think could seriously change the world. If accepted, this could change the world, which is pretty awesome. But Do you want to know just how it works or how the playoffs works? I could kind of go anywhere.
Yeah, no, so, I think like the first run. So basically, it's sort of a not experiment, but it's basically like an iteration of sort of experimental democracy, right? Using blockchain, that kind of thing, or like what? Like at a high level, it seems like that's sort of what it is.
So it doesn't actually require a blockchain. This is based off of Dan's book, More Equal Animals, which is entirely ironic. I have not read, which is. And I will read it. I'm buying a paper copy so I can properly read it and make notes and highlight the heck out of it. So, which is neat in a way, because that shows to be a successful candidate in this whole process, you don't need to have done a bunch of due diligence and background work and understand technology really, and even understand the concepts in the book. It's so intuitive.
It's definitely political, right? Because I'm pretty sure Donald Trump didn't read any books. I'm just
hey, no freaking Trump jokes. Oh my God, we just got rid of that freaking. Oh my God, just
it could be. It is political. Yeah,
I'm like totally right. Which that part's fun. The freaking oh man, I'm like literally reliving trauma now. Thanks, Jimmy. Anyway, so back to the interesting part.
Let's use that as the analogy, right? As the example. Let's talk about Trump. I mean, why not? So, what Eden allows for, because right now, when you consider you get to vote, democracy, yay, it's the best that's ever been, and there's been nothing better prior, and okay, but is it the best there can ever be? That's where we seem to be just sort of
right. Yeah,
good enough seems to work, and it really isn't good enough. I mean, the approval rates of those who are in charge. 30%, sub 30%. So it's obviously not really a true representative system of the people, which it's supposed to be. So what Eden does is it basically changes who you get to select. So an example, to just boil it down from an entire country, but assuming the United States can be represented as 1,000 people, what you do is, instead of having this political party system, which most individuals have no real say as to what those parties are, and then who gets to be the selected representative of those parties. I mean, I don't know how the US system works, but yeah, I'm sure there's some input. But really, the vast majority of Americans did not pick to have Donald Trump and Joe Biden as the two choices you can choose between. Right? The 330 million people, and that's the best that country could come up with. And the obvious answer is no. The answer is no. Flat out, those are not the best two individuals. They just happen to be there. And due to the binary nature of the controller's imposition of choice, we only get to choose between two. So, it's red or blue, left or right. I mean, it's, pro or anti. It seems society today is very deliberately being polarized. Anyway, so you take 1,000 people, and Joe Biden and Donald Trump are amongst those 1,000 people. So they could still make it to the top if they so deserve to be there. And what happens is the group of 1,000 are split randomly into smaller groups. So groups of 10 work well. So random split all the 1,000 people, whether they want to participate or not, get grouped into groups of 10. And you could say, well, how's that possible? You couldn't fit 1,000 people, and like, where do these people live? So you use Zoom. Like, you could use what we did for the Eden process was a live Zoom call. You had to turn your camera on to prove you're a real person and not participating in two calls at once. So then you could sort of game the system. So everyone's split into 10 groups of 10, and they basically debate for 50 minutes or so, and they come to consensus amongst that group, a 2/3 plus one supermajority. So you need 7 people, including yourself, to vote for one representative from that group of 10 to represent the values and expectations and desires of that group. And then that person listens to the others in that group, takes in the information. Maybe they all decide, okay, you're the right person, but if you move on, I'd really like you to focus on healthcare. I'd like you to focus on, pulling out the military or auditing the Fed. You pick your thing that you're really passionate about, and you settle on one person. That person moves on, and of all those groups of 10, one person moves on, and they get randomly split and shuffled into another group of 10, and there'd be another, say, 100 groups of 10, in this case, less. So that happens over and over again until eventually you've got a final table of 10 people who discuss, debate, and select one person to represent the entire group. If you can't reach consensus, if there's just some complete division and you can only get 6 people to vote for one, then too bad. No one represents that group. You're unable to reach consensus. You did not have a sufficiently talented consensus builder, which is really what this selects for. And who better to represent a country than someone who could find consensus with other countries, right?
Like you're from the jump incentivizing consensus builders as the primary value. I mean, that's brilliant. It's funny. The first thing when you were talking about randomizing people, I think it was the Irish did a study about putting out of like 100,000, I think they picked like a random 30 or 40 people to literally run things, and they came up with better solutions than elected officials. It was madness. And again, like some people are like, truck driver might have known his first name. I don't know. Sorry, no thing with truck drivers. I've known some really smart truck drivers, but like that kind of thing, right? That maybe completely disinterested in politics, or whatever, just running this study, and it just ended up being better because it's just like you're sort of piling into the common sense and not the sort of gamification of politics, which of course is such a huge part of the way it is now. I am officially now in love with all of that, and because again, like democracy needs to be iterated. We were talking, I think it was yesterday or the day before, about ranked choice voting. It's been going on in Ireland for a couple decades. It is just that one hack, right? Is vastly more powerful than anything that's going on in the primary, bigger, kind of older democracies right now. And the biggest problem is like there's just no iteration, right? Like iterating the system of government in the United States is like it's laughable, right? There's too much entrenched power to even get somebody on a debate stage that's outside of your two parties, right? And there's so much vested interest that it's impossible to do that. So the fact that people like EdenOS and hopefully others are now just experimenting in types of governance like this, and messing around with it and figuring out, okay, what do we want to actually value, and working backwards from that, because it seems like that's what they did, is really inspiring, frankly. Like it means like as a species we might not be fucked, which would be great. That would be fun, right?
Right. Yeah. I was expecting to do maybe a gratitude thing, and I had thought about that answer, and so much to be grateful for. But I think what I'm most grateful for is hope, because quite honestly, until hearing about this idea, I did not have a whole lot of hope about where the world can go. It seemed entirely full of entrenched oligopolies who have complete control. But now, actually, I think there's hope that things could become better.
All right. So is that your gratitude?
Yeah.
All right. I got to fit on a sign, so I'm just going to say I'm grateful for hope, because that's pretty freaking good.
And, so the comment you said, Corey, about the 40 random people in Ireland and how that led to better outcome, I think it's because those people are the people that government is meant to represent. Like those, so of course you're going to have a better outcome. Today, our representatives don't represent the people; they represent special interests. And I think the great Jesse Ventura said it best when he suggested that politicians should wear logos of all the special interests and lobbyists who they support, like NASCAR drivers. So at least you know who you're voting for.
Absolutely. Amy, what are you grateful for? You're muted.
Yeah, today's going to be one of those random off-topic days. I'm grateful for laughter. I think that the whole system is quite interesting. Did you put yours up yet, Corey? What do you get?
I haven't. I'm grateful that people like Chris Barnes exist.
Nice. Yeah, so I've said this a couple times on the show, and likewise, I'm not really that familiar with Dan's ideas. Like, I know what it is, but I always thought like the potential for a blockchain and governance was really cool. And what I'd like to see, like in a world, like if I ever wrote a book about blockchain and governance, what I would say is what we need is we need representatives to be voted in. And then those representatives propose proposals. Let's say you're talking about economics or something like that. And of course, like, in a country state, I guess certain things would be essential services like clean water and electricity and things like that. Your taxes would have to fund that, for example, right? But then there's like all of these like, sub taxes that the council people decide. And instead of having those council people decide that, what you would do is you would have the people who are in the government, or the people who are representing that group of people, like you were kind of talking about, they would put forth the proposal. And then in order to have the proposal, go through, that's pretty awesome. In order to have the
right?
proposal,
Like, what the hell?
is that yeah,
This is new.
Awesome.
This is really new.
In order to have the proposal go through, then people like you wouldn't actually vote on it. It would be put on the blockchain, and then the constituents themselves would be able to vote for it, right? So basically, they're trusting the people to put in the proposal, but whether it gets passed or not wouldn't really affect, like, unless like the general population voted for it. Like, that was always my idea, like, long before Dan and his book and his politics came along. So I'm kind of curious, because you said like it's not really on the blockchain. So like, is there a plan that like this could be on the blockchain? Because like, I think it's interesting that you said like there's this idea where you have to be on Zoom, you have to show your face so that you can prove that you're not like running like some bot op where you're getting voted through on 10 groups at once, right? Like, I think that's like really interesting. So yeah.
So yeah, you said a couple of interesting things there. One is so the ideas from the people, actually, like, you are a part of the community. So you enter Eden, you become a part of the Eden community, and then your ideas are heard during these elections, during these rounds. So if you have some ideas and you have some things you'd like to see become actual rules that everyone follows, then present it. And in advance of the election process, let other people know of your ideas, because they might want to be like, yeah, that's a great idea, we should totally have that. So then you get multiple people all sort of vouching for the same set of rules or same changes to the rules. They work their way up to the top. Then what happens, which is super interesting, is that once they're there, they can propose changes to the bylaws, basically, like the rules that govern the system, but they can't actually ratify them. And so, which is excellent. It always takes a subsequent round of elections to ratify a previously introduced set of rules. And then what this does is it prevents red team wins, new set of rules, blue team wins, new set of rules. And it's like, well, what's going on? You can't. And if the rules are that good, then everyone through consensus building should kind of agree with them anyway. So this way, the rules come in, or suggestion for rules come in, they get presented, another election occurs, the new group could campaign on ratifying those previously suggested rules, and then ratify them. They become actual rules that everyone will abide by. The blockchain piece, so this will be on blockchain. This, in the end, is going to support EOS. This is going to improve the EOS governance system, the EOS ecosystem, and ultimately, help EOS. As governance in blockchain is a challenging thing, to say the least. Often, a lot of blockchains look to one individual person, Vitalik. Hard to look to Satoshi, right? And Dan, even like Dan receives a lot of focused attention as to what EOS should do. And granted, it's deserving. Dan's an extremely intelligent guy, but it's not ideal. It should be a collective consensus. And even obviously Dan recognizes that by
and he gets a lot of flack from beyond the community as well. Yeah. But like people saying, "Oh, EOS is screwed because Dan left." I mean, it was never his intention to necessarily say, right? Like, so
yeah. And Dan has an opinion on something, and all of a sudden, oh, well, Dan agreed with it, or Dan didn't agree with it. And it's like, no, he's a human being. He's obviously hugely a part of this, of EOS. It wouldn't exist without Dan. So why would people get mad if he just had an opinion? It's not like, I've never heard Dan say, no, we cannot do that. Or maybe he has, but I haven't heard it. I mean, I don't think that's his, he's a consensus builder, obviously. So, so I think that's not right. But in terms of the blockchain piece, so this is going to be incorporated on the EOS blockchain. So there'll be NFTs issued on EOS for all of the representatives that make their way through. The voting process and the votes will be on a blockchain. So there are going to be hashes of these interactions that will be on a blockchain. But the point is it doesn't need to be on a blockchain. And that's the bigger picture. Dan, in his book, which I have been listening to, even though I haven't read it, I've started listening to it at least while I'm doing other stuff. You could do this with a deck of cards, and you could have a group of people, and very low tech, you just randomize people with a deck of cards. Whatever card you get, you go to that table, you do your thing, and you move on. So it doesn't require tech, although it will be, in this case, utilizing the EOS blockchain, and so there is a relationship there.
Well, I guess the tech kind of in a way verifies like that, like what happens stays. Like what happens on the blockchain stays on the blockchain, right? It's right. It's not like it's polar opposite of Vegas, like that's the thing, right? So like if you're saying this person won, like Chris won, right? Like, well, how do you know Chris won? Well, it's on the blockchain. It doesn't matter how he won, but it's on the blockchain, so obviously he won. So yeah.
And all the videos, like, so all from this first round, they're all up on IPFS, and so every single one of the conversations that led to the final person are completely transparent and visible for everyone to view forever. And that will be the place for every future election. There's no secrets. There's no backdoor deals. I mean, there could be, I suppose, that aren't there. But generally, all of the decision-making and requests from the groups are all there. And if I said I would do something and then I don't do it, well, there goes my reputation. I mean, I am me. Here's my face. That's my name. So if I screw up and basically lied to get myself to be chosen the winner, that'll be the last time I ever get that opportunity, because it's going to be obvious I lied because the proof is there, right?
I mean, I might have heard that you might have won because of a front room deal that fell through that people didn't like. They thought it was a bribe. And I heard this actually. That I heard that this was actually, from the person who actually, like, from people who were in an earlier group. And a good friend of ours on the channel, John, told me this. And like you said, everything's out there. But he said it was fun. Like, he said the whole process was fun. Like, people were just spinning out ideas. And then, like, these weird things were happening. And then, like, I don't know. Do you know, like, the backstory of that? You want to tell it? Because I think it's a funny story, and I think it's worth telling. And you'll get the chance, probably. We'll get the chance to talk about this in depth. Next week, you're going to come on the roundtable with us. Again, awesome. And John will be there, and a few of the other people from some of the rounds will be there too. So I think that'll just be a fun, like, recap. But, like, I just thought this was a funny story, because you said there are no backroom deals, but in a way there was kind of a front room deal, you know what I mean?
So, okay, multi-layers. First of all, you mentioned how fun this is, and yes, I think the consensus there, everybody absolutely loved it. And what they found, I've heard from many people, is that through the previous rounds, when you're talking amongst your group, and these were only groups of 4, so this was a smaller sample size. We only had 64 people, 16 groups of 4. Then there was groups of 16 people, so 4 groups of 4, and then the final group. But it sounded like, as those discussions happened, the person that went forward listened to the people in their group, and then what the people who didn't win their round still felt like they were being represented. They still kind of felt like they won, because as long as, which is awesome. Like, you don't feel left out, because your voice was heard. The person who represented you did, for the most part, in this round. And maybe in future elections the person won't represent them, and that will shine poorly upon their social score of sorts. But so this whole backdoor deal, there's 2 things. I mean, first of all, I was representing John Heater's work, like Boyd.com. The day before, I'd put out a post on the EOS forums looking for projects, because I want to participate, but I'm a nobody. I don't code. I don't have a pet project of my own. I love EOS. I love this process for, like I mentioned earlier, the bigger picture of what it can mean. So how do I participate? So I put up a post asking for ideas. Anybody in the community, if you're looking for representation in Eden, throw it here, and maybe others like myself will read what you've got and represent you in the upcoming election. So I read what John was doing, and he was looking to increase the utilization of the free EOS PowerUp. So it's eospowerup.io. And if your EOS transaction is stuck due to the low CPU, you can go to that site, enter your account, and then get a free transaction. So excellent. And it's being highly used in Venezuela.
Well, more than a free transaction, right? Isn't it like isn't it a day? You can do it once a day, and you get like a few free transactions, so you can move things around, I believe, right?
For this one, it's every 12 hours, and it's only 1. But you can also use the same site to set up. You could you can deposit some EOS and have then continued transactions. So there is more to it. But generally,
I feel like I just lost my job on the Boyd DAC because of that misstep.
I'm sure. Sorry. So it's more to be like a get out of, like, just a oops, I'm stuck. How do I unstuck and just move this one thing forward type of approach, right? So what John was looking to do is basically add a Telegram bot and Discord bot, where instead of having to go to the website to enter your account, someone can just enter your account name right there in Telegram and power it up right then and there, which is great for the community, where you get some new individuals come into this ecosystem. They're on Telegram. They don't quite understand. They're trying to do a transaction. Hey, everybody, what do I do? Instead of sending them to a website now, you can just say, no problem, type in their name, poof, right then and there, they now have a free transaction. So I saw that as being a quick, easy win. John, the guy's a genius, and he can code that within a couple weeks, right? And then so it was 1,000 EOS prize. 900 EOS was going to go to, or is going to go to John to make that happen. And 100 EOS is going to go to the Power Up Fund to just bolster that account so that we don't run out of, because it does consume a very small amount of EOS per transaction, basically free, all you Ethereum people. So this will just sort of make sure that there's plenty in that bank. Okay, so what happened? Basically, so I was there representing John. So you could call that a backdoor deal, or a collusion in advance, or a form of a party.
Is that no? Hold on.
No, that wasn't the one I was referring to. But
yeah,
no, I know where you're going, but I just want to give the full context.
Okay,
right?
I just like to anyone that is even remotely considering that hard.
No.
That's especially considering like you as the, and this is just maybe the way I imagine it, right? We're incentivizing and finding these people that are that want to be consensus builders, right? This needs to be celebrated and elevated. This is the process by which we do this. That's fantastic. Now, those consensus builders are going to be looking for and finding, people and things and projects that are pouring energy into a place that will require in their ecosystem require access to a consensus builder to basically push their values into the system, right? And not that I'm taking notes for how Uplift DAOs should work in the future when they show up, but I'm taking notes for how Uplift DAOs should work when they show up. And like that, you're basically finding people and very capable people. I mean, John is a freaking baller to bring that into your ability to create consensus, and not only consensus but value, right? Because I mean, now in whatever position you get as a consensus builder, now suddenly you have access and a relationship with somebody that can actually get some things done. And so like that, just maybe this is going to something that looks more like a front room deal, but like I can't let that one pass. Even
sure,
no one is allowed to think that. Period.
No,
I say so.
Yeah, it's gonna. One I did hear is that parties will form because look, a party formed in advance, and I think the point is groups will form and people will collect around an idea or a project, but we're never going to this will never divulge into a two-party system, and that's I think the point about parties, right?
Agreed.
So. Yeah, and the other thing is that this is strictly around, this is focused on EOS. So, whoever moved forward and eventually won, the premise was they were to do something that was going to be beneficial for EOS and the EOS community. So that's also key. So what happened in this situation that people, if you didn't watch all the videos with Yves Larose, formerly from EOS Nation, an incredible guy, an OG in the space, tons of energy, an absolute brilliant consensus builder. So he wasn't even going to participate. We only had 63 people. He just was there to support and record and just provide technical support. And we needed a 64th in order to make the numbers work and not have one room stuck with 3 people. So he did. And through that, in his first group, it wasn't going to be him selected, but then it turned out to be him because he best represented what he was working on, which was the kind of a worker proposal system for EOS. So they decided, okay, you move forward, Yves, and so we did. And then in the next room he was in, and it was a OG room extraordinaire. And you had Han from Korea, you got Luke Stokes, you've got Yves Larose, and you got John Heater. I mean, talk about a room full of huge brains. Like it's so interesting who you pick, right? So I think. It bounced around as to who could go forward. And then it was decided that John would be better to go forward since he's lesser known. And it would prove that you don't need to be one of these already famous in the EOS space guys, and kind of guarantees victory. So it was a statement in that respect, which I completely agree with. And part of what Yves did was he suggested that, hey, I will donate $1,000 or 1,000 EOS, to the full pool if John, you win. And so that was the crux of the offer was, John, if you win and so you move to the next round and you're debating the other 3 individuals who also have great ideas, use that extra 1,000 EOS to sort of as leverage to get yourself to be the winner. And it's not bad. I mean, an extra 1,000 EOS, that's 1,000 EOS for the community. I mean, and John was representing an absolutely great project that both Luke, Han, and Yves, agreed with. So it's not like it was for some nefarious thing. It wasn't like, here's 1,000 EOS for you to push my pet project through. Shh, don't tell anybody. Like that wasn't it at all. So that was the crux of it essentially. And so when John moved on to the next round, of course, I didn't know the details of that conversation, nor did the other two individuals, right? Only John did. So as we were debating and deliberating, and I encourage people to watch the final round, but then if you're really curious about this, watch the other rounds with Eves so that you can see that the intention wasn't a bribe in any stretch. It's just a misuse of the word, really. I mean, language sucks sometimes. So and so when John was there, we didn't understand the full context of that. And I was willing to, John, I'm representing you. I mean, of course I don't, I'm just a guy, right? You're the one it's your work I'm representing. Why would I be the winner in the end? I have no ego here. You win, of course. So I was, at one point, I had said, yes, John, take it. And it's an extra 1,000 EOS. That's even better for the community. And then John had sort of explained a little more. And it's funny, had he not spoken, in this case, it probably would have stayed. But then he started explaining, they moved me through because they wanted to prove that, the old guard and the OGs don't have influence and they can't change the results. And that sparked something in my head where it's actually, wait a minute. Prior to this, it was suggested that I would be the winner because then I could represent your project. Because the question was it John, the person that Eves was providing the extra 1,000 EOS for, or what John stood for, the project? Because if it was the project, well, I was that project too. So then there was some gray. It was gray, right? We didn't know because we weren't there. So when John said that, this proves that the old guard and they don't have influence, it sort of dawned on me. Well, wait a minute. We just kind of changed our decision based on what one of the old guard has influence, based on their extra 1,000 EOS influence. So it was that kind of is twisted. And maybe if he's backing the intent of what you represented, John, and the fact that I'm representing you, then he would still honor that. But that was just an assumption. And in fairness, and when you watch, Eves was clear. It needs to be you, John, the winner. So it wasn't a bribe. It wasn't nefarious. Eves' intentions were absolutely pure. And what's awesome is we're so grateful it happened because it gave us a chance to sort of see what happens when these little curveballs get thrown in, and if outside influence can change things, right?
And I wonder if you could turn that intent into a type, right? Into a smart contract or something that is obvious, right? Because again, we're experimenting. One of the things that we talk about, with the uplift is, we absolutely reserve the right to fail at any time. It's the only way that we can iterate this quickly, right? Yeah. At all. And so, finding these edge cases in these different ways that people can express value and intent. I mean, we're going to have all of those, right? And so, finding those situations where it seems as if there was not a perfect level of communication or understanding, that's just an opportunity. Right? There's a way to figure that out, right? If somebody wants to do that kind of thing, what's the way that solves these follow-on issues of confusion? Because those will exist, right? And we're surrounded by hyper genius coders. Hit the map, whiz bang, just do the thing. And then,
and I think that's so for future elections, I think those, projects out there and groups that want to participate, and, please participate. You're going to want to make sure that you've got somebody in the group or participating that's articulate and able to fully understand the nuance of what you're representing so they can express it. So like you say, we didn't fully understand what the nature of that deal was when it was just the final group. And due to that misunderstanding and slight ambiguity, it changed the outcome where had John maybe more, because at one point he did say, maybe Eves would still give the extra 1,000 if it's you because it's the project. Maybe he would. He wasn't sure. I mean, of course, how could he be sure? He's not Eves. And it was also that was a conversation an hour earlier, and sometimes these are stressful situations, and so it's easy to kind of get muddled. Oh, what was it exactly? So I think for future projects, it's important that groups find individuals who can really clearly represent what they're standing for, and so that nothing gets lost in the weeds, right?
But yeah, I don't think there's any collusion in that story at all. I just think it's an interesting story, and it really illustrates the point that everything's there to be told, everything's there to be seen. Anyone can go back and see how it works out. I'm pretty excited for the roundtable, actually. We have a really good roundtable coming up. Not this week, the week after. This week we're going to be busy with the EOS X hack, and that's going to be fun too. But next week we're going to have you, we're going to have John, we're going to have Luke, we're going to have Felix, and potentially even Brandon Lovejoy is going to be on with us. So we haven't got a confirmation from him yet. But yeah, it'll be a really fun, roundtable to see different people's perspectives and hear different stories like this, right? Why did they vote for different people? Why did they support the causes that they supported? Like, I think it's kind of fascinating, right?
If you like reality TV, I think this is this is pretty awesome. Like
Nice.
and imagine, so this is only for 1,000 EOS, and so $10,000. It's anticipated that there may be prize pools upwards of $10 million that will be subdivided. So there's going to be some major money, and imagine the sweaty palms from those conversations, right? As you start to work your way up, like that's where it's going to be. This was fun, and people wanted to treat it like it was the real thing, but it's not. It wasn't. It still wasn't the big money. So that'll be, I think, where it'll be really.
I mean, Corey,
cool.
You're pretty good at politics. We could build those
Denied.
with some.
I'm not as good as you might think I am. But thank you for that. No. What do you think will be the main challenges when the stakes are a lot higher?
You broke up.
Oh, sorry.
Main challenges for what?
When the stakes are higher, what do you think the main challenges are going to be, or the biggest ones?
Main challenges. I think, well, part of it, funding. First of all, where's that money coming from? So, in order to get community buy-in, where is that money coming from? And there's been a few suggestions. I haven't seen it being concretely put forward as to exactly how. There's talk of a very small amount of inflation on the EOS in the EOS system itself that could fund this, which personally I'm okay with. 0.25% going towards something that is deliberately there to enhance and enrich the EOS community, to me seems like money well spent. And then the risk is, can you trust the system, right? So those who are skeptical, I don't know, it seems like this is bad actors are going to get in, and then they're going to just walk away with the funds, because eventually I'm just going to have money deposited, or EOS deposited to my account. I could just exit scam and see you later. So two things. So to me, those are challenges, but there's solutions to those. So one, whoever to be granted access into this Eden group, people need to vouch for you. So it's just not just sign up and you're there. It's got to be somebody who knows you, kind of, and it has to be from existing Eden members. So there's this sort of sense that the original group of Eden members sort of forms the core initialization of the value system that it's going to contain, and then they're going to select people who also match those values. And if they pick a poor person who then invites a bunch of their buddies who are going to try to game it, it's going to shine really poorly upon the original, because it's all on chain. The inviting process is all also on chain, so you can see who invited who, and then even after you've been invited, you still have to be approved by other existing members of Eden. So those who are there, you want to protect your reputation and not let in scammers and not let in people who you really don't know and you just chatted a few times on Telegram, which can be hard because this is a global community and we don't all know each other face to face. So it's going to be a challenge to make that happen. But go ahead, Jimmy.
Sorry, I just had a question about that. So, like, once the funds are released, they're only released to one wallet under the control of one person. They're not. I've been kind of surprised that they're not released like with the signatory attached to it or something, so you can't walk away. I mean, that kind of seems like it can. I think it's up to me. Like, I technically speaking, I won. I could say send me the funds, but but I also earned the trust of the other three individuals who earned the trust of the previous individuals who earned the trust. So right.
It's built on layers of trust. In this instance, I do not, even though it's 1,000 EOS, I do not want it going into my Chris Barnes account. So John's going to set up a multi-sig of the final 4 of us, and we will all have signing authority, which is, I think, how it should go. And this is another part of the pressure that I and our group has. We get to set some precedent. We get to sort of present, maybe this is the way it should be. And I completely agree with you. I don't like the idea of one person receiving, $2 million worth of funding in their wallet, them alone. I mean, if I was in that final group, the question would be asked, how are you going to receive the funding? What are you going to do about that? And if their answer was, it's going to go to my wallet, you can trust me. I mean, no, I don't know about that. And then, and if they lose. And if they said, we'll do a multi-sig, blah, 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 it's like, okay, well, do I trust you to even do that? And that comes down to, what is your reputation within the community? How trusted can you be? What have you done in the past? And is there any red flags that would indicate that maybe you're kind of full of shit and you will just take it?
I mean, as your first attempt at office, couldn't you just, is it possible? So, like, I guess this is part that I don't understand, right? Like, when you're in control of a normal government, or your party's in control of a normal government, you make rules and legislations and laws. But you mentioned earlier that like things can't just be rolled back. So like, what's the process then? Like I thought it was interesting because you said we get to set the precedent, and I think that's a really good precedent to set, the multi-signature, like the nature of that, right? But like will it only be a precedent, or will it be something that like some other people have to follow? I'm assuming the former, because you chose that word carefully, but I'm just kind of curious.
So to be clear, I am not in Eden. To be perfectly clear, I am in the Eden trial run. I have not. The original Eden group is only 10 or 18 individuals. Like, it's a small group right now, and some amazing individuals. Luke, Brandon, Daniel, Brock Pierce. I mean, there's Eves. I mean, those are the actual Eden group. So this election it was a mock, right? It's a trial run, hence my ability to win. So yes, I think what would happen is, so to answer the question, like if it was the real thing, and now my group is sort of in charge, any bylaws, any rules that I want to put in place that aren't just precedent, but in fact are law, can't be ratified until the next election anyway. So we won't have the ability, and any existing group of leaders at one time can't make, because the way the system works is there's a foundational, a peace treaty, it's called, that all Eden members agree to. And it's meant to be a one-page, super simple document, unambiguous as what the base set of rules are. And then on top of that, bylaws are presented and then ratified. So there'll be layers of rules, but there's always a foundational set of rules, and they're deliberately meant to be super simple. And then what'll happen too is that you'll have, once we reach 10,000, not even, but other Eden communities can form, because this is an English-centric thing right now, and it'd be really challenging if you're a native Spanish speaker to try to articulate your ideas well enough if English isn't your first language. So other Edens will form, and there'll be a Chinese and a Korean and Spanish. You pick your region in the world, time zone and language, they can form their sub-Eden, and then it'll be like a community of communities that'll all sort of work together, and they'll have their own set of bylaws, yet they'll have one core peace treaty, if that makes sense.
This is really interesting because, like, from a blockchain perspective, we've been looking at, for a couple of projects that I'm associated at, we've been looking at the Daclify, and Daclify offers like subgroups within groups, and like it's all on chain, so you can have like groups, like a media group, and then like a dev group, and like these things, and then like once it's fully operational, then they could vote somebody through to like the final group, like at the top level of the DAC, and then that DAC could, like, basically the process that you're describing could all be on chain, like for projects in a DAC, right? Like once that's operational. So that's interesting to me. The other thing that's interesting to me is like, this is, it's in a sense the polar opposite. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me like it's the polar opposite of like what happens, in the real political world. In the real political world, you fight to get your things, pushed through, and you make them, law. You push those things through, and then like somebody else comes in, the next administration comes in, and like they fight to like tear all your things down, because obviously the polar opposite. In this sense, what you're saying is you make that proposal, but you're not allowed to push it through. The next person or the next group of people who comes in, or the person who's representing that group, they pretty much have to agree to make it actually stick, right? Like it seems to me like the polar opposite of what we have now, and I quite like it, actually.
Oh yeah, it totally prevents capture. I mean, the point that is that you can't just have a group come into power, change the rules so they always stay in power. That cannot happen in this system. And even if you had a group of powerful individuals who make a bunch of set of rules, and they'll get elected in next time because they're powerful individuals, and then they can make the rules permanent. That's very difficult because of the randomization of all this. So due to the randomization, the fact that everything's randomized, you may not get through to the next round if you have poor intention, and that's known. And the set of rules you've put forth, the bylaws actually suck, and they're recognized that they might actually allow for capture later on. It's like, no, we don't like those rules. We're going to vote for people who should then be running on, I don't like the rules that were just presented. If I get elected, no, I'm not ratifying those rules. I'm going to make it this, and this because it's better for the community. So there's always this feedback loop and an inability to just, power your way through and just take it all over. That can't happen, and which is, I mean, it's perfect. It's amazing. Like that's what this world needs.
Yeah, it might not be perfect, but it's clearly objectively better than what we have now.
Fair enough. Yeah. True. And yeah, it'll be iterated on. Like, this is, I'm sure there's going to be some small pieces and nuance. You're right. Perfect's not the right word. A whole lot better.
But I mean, like, exactly, like an order of magnitude better, potentially. Like, not a little bit better. Like, a lot better, for sure.
Yeah.
I might be hearing things, but I'm pretty sure you had a slip back there that said randomized nation. That was pretty good. I'm like, I mean, that kind of works, right?
It works. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I think for EOS too, in light of this recent EOS X hack and how that was dealt with, the question's been asked a lot. How could have Eden participated if it was the true Eden election and the actual set of representatives? How would have that group been leveraged in what happened there? And I think there's a lot of great ideas, and then using that trusted group in Eden, or using Eden, building some smart contract checks into dApps that then leverage Eden as a potential arbiter in these future issues, right? So you could have sort of a deliberate acceptance that if there's an issue, we will defer to Eden to help resolve it, and not just trust the block producers to make decisions unilaterally.
I freaking like this a lot. Like it even just the way voting has been working on EOS is basically just a capital incentivized oligarchy by fancier means, right? Which is still like arguably for a corporation that is running money as its primary function. It's not the craziest thing, but to have this voice that can be for the people that are part of the system. Just seems like a no-brainer step, and I really, really like the way that they're playing with how to try to fix what's been so obviously wrong with how and not just the states. I mean, the states is like a glaring example, but even parliamentary systems and other sort of entrenched democracies in the world are not as representative or functional, and definitely not as good at consensus building as they should be, right? Or they could be. Let me put it that way, right? Like that, it clearly can be improved, and it seems like what you guys are doing is the ticket or a ticket, right? There could be a totally better way, maybe, I don't know, but I know this one's better. You can just feel it.
Yeah, and it's not complicated. I mean, that's the other thing.
Right.
I didn't need to read Dan's book to understand how this works. It's intuitive. So that also, the parliamentary system is a bit complicated. I mean, I don't fully get how it works exactly, or so this doesn't require a PhD in political science to understand how this might roll out and work, and how you can, as an individual, contribute and actually have your voice heard, and then even feel empowered and engaged and want to participate. I mean, look at the voter turnouts in democracies. Why do you think it's so poor? Because people know it's pointless. They know their vote doesn't count. They know that the column A and column B were pre-selected for them. It's not an election, it's a pre-selection, and you just get to pick which flavor you like for that particular 4-year tranche.
Yeah, see, Mark, thank you for this. So Eden will bring 10,000 people to consensus in 6 hours. Like,
yeah,
that's massive, right? Like I can't even really grok that as a thing. Like, it's so distant from what I'm used to in political spaces. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, wait, what? Right?
Yeah.
It's good shit. It's good shit. I'm excited.
Bit of a marathon.
I bet.
I realized even though in the first one, I sort of didn't consider sort of this starting and 3 hours later. So I had a smoothie halfway through, which if you let settle turns gross. So I'm like drinking it as we're going. And so you have to, I realize now you need to basically prepare to be, if you don't like sitting, which I hate it. So I'm like adjusting myself all over, stand or make it so that you can be comfortable and prepare for the long haul if you're hoping to go the distance.
I kind of think I should be part of whenever the next one is, just to experience it with like
you absolutely should.
Zero intention to win. But I want to see how this works.
Yeah, but your voice counts. You're a member of the community. You're a valued member. You're contributing. You want what's best for EOS, and that's what this is about. Is people who they don't need to have to want to win, and you can enter with no intention of winning. You could just enter and be a participant and a voter, and you never know. You might still get pushed through, because it turns out in your randomized group, no one else wanted to win either.
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly.
It turns out, you're going for it anyway. Too bad whether you wanted to or not. Here's our ideas. You're the guy. We voted for you.
Right. Like, no, that's not that would be, I mean, that's part of the process, right? Like just to experience what that is like, and to be connected to the process, and ultimately sort of see it through to its end. Because like I'm hearing about this all after it ended, right? And now I'm just like, I need to know way more about this. How often do these things go on?
I think so. For now, they're going to be fairly frequent, because it's still the iteration phase, and what's the best way. I mean, we use Zoom, and Zoom.
Like, should we do bribes?
Yeah. But I think it's more, just process needs to be ironed out, and just refining the system. So there'll be multiple kind of trial runs with smaller prizes over the next weeks and months, essentially. I think there might be another one in a month or two. And then I think the plan is to gradually increase the prize pool, work out these bugs, have the community grow, and then eventually maybe I'd heard July, but I think it might be pushed to later now, where the big money becomes involved. But I mean, this is an emergent thing. Like, this is, this only happened last Thursday, so this is early days of this whole process. So people who are listening and they're intrigued, like, find us. Eden. I don't know the handle. I think it's EdenOS. I should know the website. I'm not.
There's two actually. I think one of them is EdenOS, and then there's Eden on EOS as well. I think there's one of them is a community site, and one of them is an official site. So I guess that explains. But like, I think the links are below in the YouTube. There's the Medium link, the Telegram link, the Twitter link, so you can find all the links below there. So
cool.
I kind of feel like this is becoming one of our new things, Corey. So like, go back, 2.5 minutes, take a screenshot of holding his mug up and make a meme out of it. Cause I can totally see, like, free land for everyone who votes for me.
Yeah, right.
Free world.
Like that, right. Yeah, exactly. Everyone who votes just gets stuff. Yeah, that's terrible. It's so terrible. No, that like I think if I was going to do it, I'd probably try it. I'd start reading up on, okay, what is the best way to create consensus in 10 people in an hour? Right? Like, top 3 needs. Okay, cool. Everyone has, the top 7 people have the same ones. Like, what's the easiest hack for finding a functionable, be able to speak English or some language very well? That's already, I'm out. But I think it would be really fascinating.
I wrote my sort of summary and put it up last night at the EOS community forum about just sort of how it went, and then some suggestions from my humble perspective on for future entrants on what they could do and consider in advance to increase their chances. And one of them was to have a plan. So really be specific and precise about what you want to do with the prize, how it's going to benefit the community. And not just, because I found a lot of, when you listen back, you'll hear people had great ideas. It just was very intangible. So, and it was, well, how do we define success? How long is it going to take? Like, translation services for, different parts of the community that don't speak English, education for people who aren't fully understanding what's going on, marketing, hugely required definitely required in the EOS space. But they were very great ideas. They just weren't tangible. And I think part of my path to success was I was very focused on it and an ability to deliver a quick win, to demonstrate that Eden works, and it was going to be something we could measure very easily. So have a plan, that's key. And then the other one was, what was the other one? Be able to build consensus. No, it was to listen, I think. Listen to what others were saying. Because I think a lot of times as you're in your group, you need to be able to hear what the others are saying, and then be able to sort of incorporate their ideas into what you're pitching, so then they can feel comfortable to vote for you then, right? So you want to be able to I think a lot of times, we're in a conversation that's intense and you're hearing something and you're already thinking about your response and not really listening to what they're saying. And that takes practice to really get good at really listening, because you want to have a good response, but you don't want to be too slow about it. So it's, that takes practice. And the more you can listen, the better you can reflect what you've heard. And then the more trust you can build from that group. And then they then listen to you more intently, because they feel like they can trust you and that you care. And then you better represent that to move forward. And the other one was, I think, just to have fun. Yeah, you gotta be relaxed. You're going to communicate more effectively and efficiently if you're in a calm place. Take some breaths. If you screw up and start stuttering, mess up a word, start over. They're going to judge you if they can't understand what you're saying, but they're not going to judge you if you start over. I mean, everyone's done that before. So I think just have fun with it. You're amongst friends, right? This is your community, so don't feel too much pressure.
It's permaculture governance. It's interesting. Like permaculture is based off of like 10 founding principles, and the last one is a governance principle. And like this isn't the principle, but just what you said reminded me of it, right? Like when a permaculture walks into a piece of land, they don't walk into the land with the idea, I want to plant corn and I'm going to reshape the land to look like it's corn. They walk into the land and they look at the land and they say, what will grow well here and with other things, right? Yeah. And so this is kind of like what I hear you saying, what I see is like, when a politician walks into office, he, with his blazer on, with all the badges, as you put it, he says, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And this is what I'm going to tell you I'm going to do. And this is not what I'm going to tell you. And I already have a plan, right? But like what you're saying is like, when you're going through these rounds, like to be successful, you're looking at, other people's ideas and you're incorporating them into your own idea. And I think that's a really cool idea for like progressive government, right? And by progressive, I mean like government that is building as opposed to government that is stagnant and standard and not moving anywhere. I was listening, but I was also thinking. So I'm guilty of that as well. But I like as I was listening, I was kind of pondering, like, I wonder, like, there's no answer for this really, but I wonder like how much of this, experience came from Dan, like sitting, in Block One, listening to all the things that community had to say and not being able to act on them, if any. Like maybe none of it came. But it's not like, it's kind of interesting to parallel what you're saying about like Eden and how the community, like, and how the, that group of people would react to something like the EOS X hack, and what Dan's statement was for the EOS X hack versus like Block One silence, essentially, right? And I think that's a really interesting kind of parallel that I'm probably not going to touch any further, but I just think it's interesting.
Hey, guys, Chris, I hope you come back really soon because I think it's a conversation we want to keep having. Mark, love your comments. Would love to have you on at some point as well. I need to run into to my next meeting. If you guys want to keep talking, please do. Jimmy, you gonna stay on for a bit? You're muted, so that's not.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. But we're definitely gonna have to make you a regular, Chris. But yeah, we'll catch you later, Corey.
Awesome. All right, cheers, guys.
Thanks, Corey. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, so like Corey said, like we are going to have you back soon. You're going to be back next week. With
I love it.
Some people on the roundtable on the Crypto Writer Roundtable Live podcast. So that's pretty sweet. But I would, so when Corey and I started the show 1 day a week, and then we put it into 5 days a week, we got to a point where we decided that we didn't want to interview people. We just wanted to come and hang out with like repeat friends in a way, right? Like we would love to have you back like on a semi-regular basis and like get the firsthand updates, your experiences as well as what you're learning and things that are happening, within the whole like Eden space and how things are moving forward, right? Because I think like it's really fascinating if you think about it, right? Like politics is one of those things that a lot of people look at and they're just like, oh, I don't have time, or I don't want to be stressed out, or I don't want to be like, dealing with this. But like, I've heard from multiple people that it was super fun. Like it was, and even you said yourself, it was like reality TV, right? Like, I mean, I hate reality TV, but I can't stop watching it. So,
yeah. But hey, man, I'm super flattered that you would consider having me on again. And I'm just a regular nobody dude. No one's heard of me in advance of this, right? Like, so small town Ontario, Canada, like, haven't built a single thing on EOS. So if anything, I hope this can at least be I can be a representative for those who feel similar. They want to contribute. They don't know how to contribute. They don't code. Well, hey, now you can contribute. Look, here I am contributing in any way that I can, and you can do the same. So yeah, don't be shy. Join the community and then find other people. The other thing is watch the videos because they're all up. Mark Shear, who commented here, he's done a great job putting them all up on YouTube, and basically watch the videos if you're really interested and listen to what the others had to say who didn't move forward, And maybe you'll, oh yeah, I like what that guy said. I want to do the same thing. Maybe, and reach out to them because all the contact information is available, and find groups of people or aggregate into groups of people who have a similar sort of goal or a mission that you could form, and then work together, like start to build some groups from this, and then come to the next round ready to go with a proper plan. And then, a lot can come from this. So I encourage people to watch the videos to kind of see how it all played out, and to recognize who is like-minded in that group.
Yeah, and I mean, as Corey mentioned, Mark, you're still there listening. Like, please, like, find the links below. Go to like the Uplifters, Uplift Art, and tag Kansai Crypto Jimmy D, and tag me in that channel and send me a DM, because we'd love to have you on as well. And like kind of see the behind the scenes process of how it all worked, and like, get your take. I mean, if you're willing to put your face on camera. I mean, like it's possible that picture in the comments isn't you, so I do understand if you don't want to do that. Like, I mean, I
think he's all right. Yeah, I've seen his face on video, so I'm sure he's okay with it. And he's been great. Like he's been all over helping. So yeah, Earthman's been doing great work.
So there was a comment that I put up before, and I don't know the answer to this question. I think somebody said like 10K in 6 hours. Does that mean 1 million? If you add 2 rounds, would be 1 million people? Like in 8 hours? Is that how that works? Like, I have no idea how to answer that question. Like, is it always 6 hours, or does it depend on like the amount of rounds? Or
no, yeah, it depends on the number of rounds, and it depends if there's a gap between the rounds, and it depends how long each round is. So that's another sort of, we're not sure. This initial cohort was 50-minute rounds with 4 people, but it could be upwards of 10 to 12 people in a group, and 50 minutes may not be enough time. If everyone is vying to move forward, it's not a lot of individual time to articulate your ideas and then try to persuade others. So you might get a lot of stalemates if there isn't enough time, because it's capped. You have your round, you've got to vote by a certain time. And because the point is the rounds occur simultaneously, right? So I can't be in 2 rounds at the same time. So they have to be occurring at once, and then the next round have to all begin at the same time. So the timing, and then, the number of rounds, the number of individuals will then determine the number of rounds it requires to filter out to the top. So the timing, it really is going to be dependent on some of these details that are.
Yeah, I mean, I hope Corey goes for it, because there's no way I can do it. I mean, a 1 hour meeting for me, like, if people don't boot me out, lasts for like 6 hours. Speaking of which, Seth has a good question, or a good comment. Having funds, I don't understand it at all. I mean, half of what Seth says, I don't understand. He's on that level of right? So, I'm happy to have him as a friend and a cohort in my life. So I'm not taking the piss at all. But like, having funds in an escrow should be a normal procedure because of tax reasons. I don't know what that means, actually.
Yeah, I think it's, and I probably am oversimplifying it, but if I just get the funds directly deposited to me and I then have possession, I have possession, so I have to then dispose. If I then transfer those away, I now need to do a deemed disposition on that.
Right. So we're back to like the multi-sig thing, and I wonder like that brings up a really interesting point, right? Like, I wonder if that. Like, that might actually be, and I'm not even in the governance thing, but like, I'm just shooting the shit, and like, Mark Shear, this doesn't, I mean, you can put it up there if you want, but it's probably not going to go up there. But what I'm saying is, like, why not have a dedicated account, right? Like, why not have a dedicated governmental account whereby when you win, right, then that escrow account, like Seth says, then that account, like, you get control of those keys, right? And the interesting thing to think about is, like, I don't know if it's allowed, because they're kind of coming up with ideas now around, because the EOSX hack, right? They're kind of coming up with ideas around, like, I guess guidelines for like when this would potentially happen, right? Because a lot of people are crying wolf, and they're saying, like, if EOS Nation wasn't involved, then it wouldn't happen. And I disagree. Like, I see the beauty in this, like, that like exists because it was a malicious person, and you can take that account back. That would be awesome. Now, what if you had this governance model where, like, the Eden people had, like, I don't know how that would work, but like, maybe you have maybe I'm going too far. Maybe this isn't allowed. Maybe we should go back to Plato's original idea and intent, and not allow politics and money. But it kind of seems like they're already allowed here, because those funds are being put in. Like, maybe there is a safeguard that could happen with that escrow account, whereby like the keys would have to be I mean, I guess you would have to trust that, like, somebody like Eves, for example, who was participating, and was an observer, had he not entered in, would have that, ability to moderate things like that, right? Like that's the thing. Like, what happens when the guy from Canada, that Canadian exchange, he just disappeared, right? And nobody knows where all those funds from that exchange went. Like, maybe he's somewhere in India, maybe he's dead. Like, nobody knows, right? But this is a perpetual problem, right? Like, I'm not saying that Satoshi should go into the Bitcoin network and pull out all of those funds that got thrown out on a PC in the dumpster because somebody thought that Bitcoin wasn't going to amount to anything. However, what I am saying, like, is if an exchange disappears, right? Like, and the person who's holding that single key, which is ridiculous anyway, but the person who's holding that single key disappears, then the community or the governance like system within the community has that ability to get those funds back, right? Like, I mean, like, if you've taken off and you're living in some hole in the middle of Africa, with hundreds of millions of dollars, that's great. But like, then you wake up in the morning and you check your account and you can't access it because, like, a blockchain like EOS and the block producers or the governance community behind it took it away. Like, all of this is really fascinating to me, and I think, like, the potential for, like, how these two things integrate with one another. And I like to give Dan the benefit of the doubt. I wrote an article when he left that this could go either way, and I think this potentially went in the best possible way, because I have the feeling, even though I've never interacted with him, I have the feeling that he was capped at every turn in block one. And I have the feeling that, like, I'm kind of annoyed at how he left. I think it could have been better handled, but I think him leaving was the best possible thing for the ecosystem, for him, for the governance model, and potentially for block one as well, right? Like I think all of these things kind of came to a fore. So that's my rant. I'm going to stop now. But
yeah, a lot of great points, man. The communication from block one sometimes is not what we'd hope to see, but we don't know what's going on in there. Assumptions are pretty easy. So, we don't know the ins and outs of what led to Dan's decision and what is leading to potentially some lack of communication that we'd prefer to see. But, that's the network moves forward. Block one's still a valued member of the community. They're still building stuff. Stuff's going to come out. Voice didn't turn out like we had hoped. Okay, so you know what? People aren't allowed to make mistakes, and block one's a collection of people. Like, cut them some slack. And I like the idea that EOS has the capacity, like, that we're a blockchain that doesn't require a hard fork to resolve these issues. If I'm a large institutional player and I'm going to bring some money into one of these ecosystems, like, I think I heard Novogratz say the other day that there's like 0.5% of the world's wealth in Bitcoin or in crypto right now. So that's nothing, right? So when big money starts to make its way in, where is it going to go? Right. Is it going to go to these code is law, immutability, there was a bug, but it was in the code. Sorry, huge institutional player, your funds are gone. I don't think that's attractive to them. I think that this is, I liked what you guys said yesterday. I listened to your discussion yesterday about maybe this was a ploy from Block One, and they seeded this potential hacker to, like, do it to demonstrate that, hey, look, we can fix things if things go awry, and the intent of code isn't held to. I think this is a feature, not a bug of EOS. And the thing we need to work on, and we are working on and will work on as a community, is just how is the decision process. Who is making the decision? Right now, the BPs have the power to make these decisions to change, account keys. And so the question is, should they have that power? I think yes. But then the next question is, how do they decide to use that power? And that's where Eden can step in. And as this process becomes more fleshed out and there's more trust built amongst the community at whole, not just those community at large, not just those who are in Eden, but the greater token holder community, we get a chance to sort of build that trust and then start to have that trust be incorporated, deliberately coded into dApps that then provides the elected Eden representatives some opportunity to arbitrate and somehow be involved anyway. I mean, I'm not smart enough to know how exactly Eden can be leveraged, but I'm collecting ideas, and there's a lot of great ones. So this isn't over yet. And I think this is an opportunity to then use this issue, this event, and learn from it and move forward, iterate and move forward. That's what technology is all about. And it's really sad that Eves has stepped down from EOS Nation. I think that's a huge loss to the community. So I hope he's listening, and I hope he knows that we want him around. So I hope he's sticking around, and he's gonna keep remaining a solid member of the community.
Yeah, I think from what I know of Eves, I don't think he'll disappear. I think he'll go on and do more things, and I think US Nation will do really well under the direction of Daniel. Like,
Yeah.
And with that team, like the whole team is just a stellar team, and they've done amazing things. They're like one of the better teams in terms of bridging things with Asia, which is kind of important to me because, like, I like over here, I hear a lot of those things. So I would agree with you on that. And I also like to go back to what you were saying about, it's a feature. It's not a bug. I mean, with me, I think in a way, like, say what you want about Dan, but I'm kind of starting to be, won over by the idea that, like, he might not, this might not be a bug for him, right? Like, it might be a feature. Maybe moving away from Steam, maybe moving into EOS, right? Maybe moving away from Block One into Eden. Like, maybe he's just at the point now where, like, I mean, he probably isn't that concerned about money, but he's probably at the point where he's like, okay, this is where I can do the most amount of good for my vision, right? Now, whether his vision, other people agree with it, it's not up for debate here. But like a lot of people who have their vision, like, they never get a place to practice that or that community to practice that. And I mean, if you just come out of the gates and you're super successful, then it kind of means to me that, like, there's probably something that somebody's missing, and this is Dan's, third or fourth round, and it kind of seems like it's working better than any of the other ones. So I kind of respect that.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, the reason I was a Bitcoin maximalist when I first learned of this whole thing in 2014, and I didn't participate in Ethereum because I didn't like the pre-mine. I'm like, it's too centralized. I don't like that. I was wrong, obviously, but I learned of Dan. I learned of his sort of life mission of, securing life, liberty, property, and justice for all. Hard to argue with that as being a great mission. I mean, who in their right mind, like, terrible idea. Who's this guy trying to secure my life, liberty, and property? Come on now, right? Yeah. So, I mean, this is just the next step along that path where Dan has, now given us something that's really able to secure our, never mind using blockchain and immutable ledgers to do that, but actually using technology and using this political playoff system with Eden to select our leaders and to select our representatives. And I like what you said about EOS Nation and just how great they've been to the community. I'd say they are the definition of a consensus building block producer, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I would agree. Right. Like, they work with a lot of other block producers on a lot of other things. So, but yeah, like, say what you want, and it doesn't really matter. Like, voice might become something. It might not. It might just stagnate like it is now. I mean, bullish, we have hopes that they learn from voice, which is what they said, but like, that's to be determined. But one thing that we can say is, like, from this experience that you've had, right? From this experience that many of these other people have had, these 64 other individuals in this experience, what we can say is that Eden is working. That is actually working. That is actually live. That is actually working. People are doing things, and it will be live again very soon, I would imagine, right?
Yep. Few weeks to a month or so. Yeah, I think there'll be another test run of it.
So is there?
I think it's been successful.
Sorry, is there a timeline? I'm just curious. Is there a timeline when we go from, like, test run to actual?
There is the Eden. They've got a website with a roadmap. I think it's hard to be. They're still building a lot of tech. Like, they want to put as much of this on chain as possible and automate it. When Eden becomes a group of 100 people, and each of those 100 people have the opportunity to invite 15 more people, you can imagine how that exponential growth would be super difficult if you're going to manually start to aggregate these people into a list. Like, it's just so right now. I think Dan's team is focused on just getting it actually so it can be automated and on chain, and so that's what they're working on. Tech development, never, hard to adhere to perfect timelines. So I'm not sure when it'll be really live. Within the weeks, like, basically the invitation process for new members is going to start it could be this week or next week. Like, it's very soon. Like, it's moving at lightning speed in tech development world from my uninformed view of tech development. So, but it's coming quick.
Very cool. Yeah, and like I said, like, you'll be back with us next week on Thursday, and so I'm super excited about that. Awesome. And we'll be over on the Crypto Writer channel, streaming live over there with a few other guests. We got a pretty good stellar cast. I mean, I think we'll wrap it up for today, but we really hope that you you come back after that as well. So thank you very much, and we'll
thank you, man.
see you tomorrow. Yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to join you and speak with a awesome fellow Canadian.
I know. Do you want to do like the double chop? I don't think we've ever done it.
We could try.
All right. Wait, I need both hands. All right. One. Well, wait. Ready? On three or after
Sure.
three? What do you want to do?
On three.
All right. 1, 2, 3.